Okay, now if you look at this data, just so you understand the data, what it's all about, we have name column, we have gender column, okay, we have date of birth, we have the sport, because in this sport we have athletics, we have boxing, we have swimming, taekwondo, tennis, and wrestling. Okay, all right, now we just have results, basically how long it takes them to complete a particular whatever activity. Then we have maybe the type of car they drive, the color of the car, okay, date of registration. These are just data that are put together to enable us achieve this particular function. Then we have the mileage, we have selling price. Okay, these athletes have this car and they want to sell it, and there's a description about that. Okay, now basically that is what the data is all about, but we'll have to see what we would do to use this function. Okay, now let's start with the count function. Okay, now what is count function? The count function, we're starting with the middle one. The count function simply means based on a range of values, it will count how many in that range contains number. I can use any of the columns, but let's use this column called color. So as we can see, there are no numbers here, but let's see if that would apply. So we'll type in there, start with the equal sign and type in count. While you're typing, you'll see the different kinds of count functions here. So I'll just double click that one. Now we are working on using the color column. So I'm going to select from that point, which is G2, and select the range of cells. Okay. I have to select and stop at the end of where it stopped. You don't have to select the entire thing. You stop at that point because that's where the range of cells stop. And then I'll scroll all the way up and close the bracket. Okay, that's how to work with the count function. Then you press the enter key. Now you see it returned 0 because this count function only returns the range of cells that contains number. As you can see, the column that we use, there are no number here, so it returned 0. So we're going to use another column that has number in it and see what it's going to return. So I'm going to delete that and type in the equal sign, because that's how you start with the equal sign for functions, and type in count. Okay, let's use the mileage column. So I'll select from the I2, select to the last. Okay, that's where I stopped. Then I'll scroll all the way up. Now this is how to work with large data. Okay, close the bracket and press the enter key. Now you see it returned 114, telling us that this particular mileage column, every cell in this column contains number. So we have 114 cells if you count, and that's why I returned that. Now let's go to count A. What is count A? So I'll click inside there. Now the count A, it counts the range of cells that are not empty based on a range of values. Cells that are not empty. So you can see we use again this column. Say I'm going to start with my equal to and type in the count A function. So while I'm typing, that comes out. So I open the bracket. Now go to the color column and select the entire range of cells. So I'll click hold and select. When I get to that point, I would release, then close the bracket. Press the enter key. Okay, now you would see the count A returned that 112 cells based on this group of cells that are selected are not empty. Now you can see that these two cells are empty. Remember, the entire cells selected is 114, but the 2 cells are empty. Remember that I said the count A counts the range of cells that are not empty. So that's why we have 112. So anytime you want to use the count A, you're using it because you want to count range of cells that are not empty. Now let's go to the count blank and what it means. Now the count blank is an opposite of the count A. It counts the range of cells that are blank. So we're using the column again because we have a blank stuff there. Other cells we don't have any blanks, so we can use that. So I'll type in my equal sign and type count blank. Open the bracket. Now select to the end. Okay, remember you are supposed to know the range of cells that you're working with. You're not supposed to select something outside of that. So we'll stop at that point. I'll scroll all the way up. All right, close the bracket and press the enter key. Again, you can see count blank. Based on the range of cells, it's returned the value 2, indicating that it is 2 cells in this group selected that are empty. So this, whenever you want to use the count blank, you know that this is what it does. Okay, now let's go to the count if. We'll be using the count if. I have 2 examples to show you when you want to use the count if. So what is count if? Now the count if counts the number of cells in a range based on a criteria. So there has to be a criteria given for you to be able to use the count if. So the count if counts the number of cells in a range based on a criteria. You cannot use count if you don't have a criteria. So let's scroll a little bit and look at this, the column headings, and see what criteria we can use to walk through that. Okay, let's look at the gender because we have male, female gender here. Let's just use that as an example to work with the count if, so you understand how that works. Let's find the number of female athletes. Count if. All right, so using the gender column, we will find the number of female athletes. Number of female athletes. So I will type in the equal to and type in the count if function. Open the bracket. Now I will have to go to the gender column to select the range of the cells. This is my gender column. I'll select till the end. Stop at that point. Now scroll through. So that's how to work with large data. Okay, remember, you see here, you'll see that tiny description, count if. There's a bracket that is open, range, it says range. Now I have selected the range of the cells, and then there is a comma there. Then the next thing you see is criteria. We need to put a criteria. Now sometimes people will just type in the criteria and close the bracket, but I like to go through this method because it makes it easier for you to walk through. Once you select the range of cells, you come to this and click on the insert function. When you click on the insert function, the function argument dialog box will appear. So go to the criteria box, see the range. We already selected the range. Okay, now go to the criteria and type in the criteria as female. Remember, what we're trying to do is to find the number of female that are in this data. Okay, because in that gender we have male and female. Let's find how many people in this data are female. So once you type in your female, which is the criteria, you can press the tab key and you'll see in this right hand side, the value would come out. It's showing 41 already. If you didn't do that correctly, you will find error over here. So that is all right. I'll click OK. Okay, so we have that value there. Now another example we want to try with the count if. Like I said, count if counts the number of cells in a range based on a criteria. So the criteria for this second example will be to find the number of male athletes. Find the number of male in this data. So again, I'm going to type in the count. I like to use the capital letter. So I'll type in equal to and type in count if, open brackets. Okay. Now scroll through to where we can find the male is in the gender column. So I'll select from B2 to the last cell. So over here, that's the last cell. Once selected, I'll scroll back up. So for count if, I've selected the range of cells. The next thing is, because I know what I'm doing, I can decide to just type in my criteria here, put a comma and put in the criteria that I want. But it's always easier to go and insert your function, and in that criteria box you type in male. It's easy that way. Then press the tab key on your keyboard. You'll get the value and you click OK. All right, so now we have the number of female here and we also have the number of male. So if I click in that box, I can see that it was properly done because I can see the functions in the formula bar. Okay, right, so we have completed working with the count if, the count A, and the count blank. All right, now let's look at how to use the subtotal. Now, what is subtotal? Subtotal function is used to summarize or outline your data. Okay, you can use it to create groups automatically, as well as add function like the count, like the sum, average, and so forth. Now, take note that before you apply subtotal to your data, you should sort that data according to alphabetical, based on whatever it is you're trying to solve, but your data has to be sorted. Before we know which column we want to sort our data on, we have to know exactly what we are trying to solve. Okay, so I'm going to read a question. When I read that question, then I will tell you what column we will be sorting our data based on. Now the question is, count the spot using the function subtotal. At each change in spot, show the total number of spots below each spot. Okay, you keep mentioning the name of a particular column in this data. You see, spot, spot, spot. Now this tells us that we should sort our data according to spot in alphabetical order. Now to sort, I'm going to reduce this so I can easily sort the data nicely. Now to sort, I usually advise you select the entire data. Okay, you can see everything is selected. So now that I have selected the entire data, I would go to Home tab, and here is my editing group. I'll click the more arrow, okay, and choose custom. Remember I said you have to sort in alphabetical order. Yes, this is an alphabetical order, but always choose the custom sort. So I'll choose the custom sort. Now it says sort by. Sort by, click the more arrow. How do you know what to sort by? It is from the question that you have, okay, or what if you work in an organization, what exactly are you trying to find? Why do you want to use the subtotal? So you need to know exactly before you select. So but from this question it says count the spots using the function subtotal. So we'll be sorting by sport. So I'll choose that sport. Okay, you will see cell values. You're not to touch that section. Order here, we will be working with A to Z. So it's already organized nicely. So click OK. Now this is now properly sorted by the sport. Now the next thing you should do is to head over to the data tab so you can work with the subtotal. It's all selected, so you leave it like so. You go to data tab, over to the point where you see the outline group. Click the more arrow, you will find your subtotal. Explanation here simply says quickly calculate rows or related data by inserting subtotals and totals. So I'll click on the subtotal. Okay, now this dialog box comes out, which is the subtotal dialog box. Okay, you see here it says at each of these boxes, I will take time to explain each of those. At each change in simply means select the column that will be the basis for the subtotal. Select the column that will be the basis for the subtotal. Again, at each change in, if you click the more arrow, what you would see here is the name of the columns, which is this data, the name of the columns. So you have to select the column that you want to use for your summary. So we are using the sport. So I'll choose the sport. Now we have the next box here is use function. I'll click the more arrow. If I scroll through, you'll see the different Excel functions. Now, which one should we use? It is based on the question. If I read the question again, it says count the sport using the function subtotal. Just starting to read that question, you hear the word count. So that is an indication that we should choose the function count. Okay, so whatever it is you're doing, it is from the question that you read. Now this other one is add subtotal to. Like, where do you want to summarize your subtotal? That's simply what it means. We want to summarize it under the spot column. So here is also what you see here is the name of the columns that we have here. Okay, so we'll have to put a tick in the column spot. So that's what we want. Or here you don't need to put any tick there. It's okay as it is. And then I'll click the OK button. All right, so we have done the subtotal. Now, if you look towards this side, you will find different levels here. There is level 1 to level 3. Now, the level that you're seeing at this point is the level 3. Okay, this is the level 3. It gives you the complete data that we have here. Okay, now look at our sports section. I can now click on this to deactivate the highlight. Now let's go to the 3 levels that we have. You see level 1, level 2, and level 3. Now level 3 is the entire data we have. Now let's go to level 2. If I click the level 2, what you see here is the subtotal itself. So I'm going to double click. All right, athletic count, we have 99 people who are athletes. Now boxing count, you will see that we have 4 people. Rowing count, just 1 person does it. Swimming count, we have 4. Taekwondo, we have 2. And tennis, we have 1. And wrestling, we have 3 people who are into these different sporting activities. Okay, that is what the subtotal is. Like I did tell you initially, that subtotal allows you to organize your work nicely or summarize it in a particular way based on what you are looking for. So that is what level 2 gives us, the subtotal itself. Now let's go to level 1 and click by that number 1. What you see here is the grand total. Now the grand total is simply adding the entire sporting from 99. If I go back to that level 2, just add all of this and you get the grand total. Here is the grand count. So let's go back to level 3 where we have the entire data here and look at column D where we have the sport and see what is happening there. If you scroll all the way down, you will see how it is nicely arranged. Athletics count, we have that as 99. All right. Boxing count, we have that at 4. Rowing, it's also organized in the main data. Swimming, we have that as 4. You see how it grouped them nicely and it grouped and counted them. Now we have taekwondo, it grouped it and counted it. So tennis was just one, it gave the number. Okay, now for wrestling, it organized and gave us the number, and at the end it gave us the total number of people in this data. So that is what the subtotal does, organizes your work nicely and gives you what exactly you're looking for. The other function you can actually use for this data will be the link function. Link is spelled as this, LINK, the link function. All right, now to use the link function, let's click on the sheet 1 here. Okay, what you see on this spreadsheet is simply the sports, and these are all the different types of sports. Okay, so we're going to use the link function, which simply means that you use the link to reference values from other worksheet or within the same worksheet. Okay, so we're going to be using the link function to reference values from the participant's spreadsheet. So before you use the link function, let's go back to the participant spreadsheet, scroll all the way down here and go to level 2. Click on the level 2. What we basically want to do is to get the numbers here. Yes, we can easily look at that number and type in here 99, but we want to use the function called link to do that, and it's easy. All you need to do is to press the equal to sign. Now click on the worksheet that you want to get that value from, which is in this case participant worksheet. So I click on that, go to the athletic count, click on it, which is that 99, and press on my keyboard enter. So I press the enter key on the keyboard. Now I have used the link function to get the value 99 across. So if I click on that cell, you will see what is on the formula bar. So that's what I will be doing for all of these cells. So for boxing, I'll press the key, go to participant worksheet, go to where boxing the number is, click on that cell and press the enter key on my keyboard. The same thing, equal sign, go to participant. What was that? Rowing, click on that rowing number, press enter key. Swimming, I'll press equal to, go to participants. This is swimming, click the number 4, press enter key. So that is what link is all about. So here I press equal to, go to participants, click on participants. I think it was taekwondo, click on taekwondo, press the enter key. Tennis, equal to, go to participant worksheet, click on that, look for where tennis is, click on the number 1, press enter key on my keyboard. Wrestling, I'll press the equal to, go to participants, go to where I have wrestling, click on the number 3, press my enter key. So what we have done so far is we have used the link function to reference those values from the worksheet called participants. Right. Now let's calculate the total here. I'll type in total. Okay, I want to apply all others, so it's also, and make that bold. Okay, now let's find the total number here. Now the total number here, of course, we can still use the link function and get the total number, which is 114 from here, but we're not going to use the link function. It can be use a formula to find the total number for the sports. Come here, press the equal sign, because we want to sum all of this up. So we're going to use the sum function. start with your equal to, type in sum, select the entire that, and close the bracket. Okay, it is still the same value, but in this case, you're creating a formula to calculate the total number there. Let's find a percentage for each of those parts. So here I'm going to type in percentage. All right, and let's create border around that so it's all good. So we want to find the percentage for each of those parts. Okay, the percentage total. And to do that is that easy. You press the equal to. For athletics, you click on that, which is B2 divided by the total. Okay, then you press the enter key. So with this, we get the percentage for athletics. All right, instead of having it as 99 persons are into the sport, we get the percentage. You use that value and divide by the total number of those into sport, and you get your percentage. All right, so now we have this. Let's convert it to percentage. Home tab. This is the number group. We click on that percentage. So we have 87% of the total people who are into sport are in athletics. Okay, so now I can decide to use my fill handle, copy the formula down to that point. We talked about absolute. What you should now do is clean everything, make the formula absolute. Always remember this, make your formula absolute. Now what keeps changing in that formula here is the B9. If I was to investigate, you will see, okay, let me run this again. Now if I come to this, you'll see that over here it is showing B16. Meanwhile, we are supposed to divide with B9. So that means that value or the formula is changing. So we need to make this absolutes to stop the formula from changing. Now to make that absolute is to use the $ to hold the B9 together. So you can see where I have put my absolute, my $ over there. Then I'll press the enter key on the keyboard. Now we can copy the formula down to the rest of the cells. Now let's create a chart using the column sport and percentage. We want to create a pie chart using the column sport and percentage. So I'm going to select and stop at that sport. I selected from sport to wrestling. Press my control key down, select from percentage to that point. Okay, so let's create a pie chart using those two columns. So go to the insert tab, go to chart, that is our pie chart, click the more arrow, and you would see that there are different sections. There is 2D pie chart, 3D pie, donut, and so forth. And within the 2D, we have the pie, we have the pie of pie, what it looks like. We have, okay, you can find that all there, but let's use the 3D pie chart. Let's move this to the next, to another sheet, so it's quite clear for us. So this is selected. You go to that chart design, you will see location, click the move chart. All right, we want to move this to a new sheet, so we can still just leave that as sheet 1. I don't have any title for this, so I'll click OK. Okay, I can always change the sheet name if I want, if I have a title. But let's go to the chart design tab, go to layout, chart layout, click the add chart elements. Okay, from here we can see data labels. So if I scroll all the way down, we can see the different kinds of data labels and choose which one we want. We want the percentage to show. Okay, it's showing a little bit. Okay. Outside end, that is best fit, that is data callout. Now it depends on how we want it. Maybe the data callout is good because it tells us each of those slides what it is all about and we can see it clearly. Yeah, let's work with data callout. So that's what your add chart element does. And from here, we all know that these are chart styles. We can change whatever chart style that we want. This is style 10 and so forth. Okay, we can move the legends to different angle by going to the add chart elements. This is the legend. If we want the legend by the right side, we can move it. If we want it by the left side, we can do that as well. Let's move it at the right side. Okay, and so basically you see that we started off from this data that is quite large, and from this data you will notice that we have been able to go through, use different functions. We went through using the subtotal, and from subtotal we are able to do all of that, get percentages, and we created a chart. In summary, the subtotal function is used to summarize or outline your data. That is what it does. So when we talked about subtotal, you would see how it summarized our data and brought this out nicely. And from this, we're able to go ahead to create our chart. This we can use. You go to a conference, you can use this and make a presentation basically.